global. Yes, we tried to get moneymind.com, but it was taken. So moneymind.global as a nod to all of our friends and customers and allies and supporters who are all around the world in all the different countries. And we are so thrilled to have you join us. I am so thrilled to have you join us. Apparently, I have a bit of a bad habit of saying we instead of I because I'm so team oriented and inclusive, I guess. But yeah, hopefully I will be able to say I a lot more in the future because I am Raven. I am the founder of MoneyMind, and MoneyMind is a social enterprise, aspiring social enterprise that is built to encourage and empower financial literacy in all the people around the world who feel like they wish they'd been taught this in school. This is a live broadcast and we'll be broadcasting out across multiple channels. So if you are here on Haps, you will see all of the comments from all of the channels. That's haps.tv that I am multicasting from. And if you are on different platforms, then you will see only the comments from your platform, just to let you know in case that gets a bit confusing. And if I'm saying hi to people like, hi Sarah, thank you so much for joining. And thank you everybody else who is joining or watching on replay, and also anyone who leaves comments because they will be very helpful and useful. So one of the reasons why I wanted to start doing these live broadcasts a little bit more consistently, and I'm still working on the consistency because my schedule is a little bit manic, but I think it's really, really important to do and also really fun, is because I used to broadcast a lot on Periscope casually, and the community there was so wonderful. And it was such a shame that Periscope, dissolved earlier this year, and a lot of us were left floating around wondering how to find each other and where to go next. And so, really great broadcaster called Penguin 6 that a lot of people who are watching this or who have seen my previous broadcasts may have heard of. And, I was introduced to broadcasting from Penguin 6, so everyone just knows Penguin 6, okay? He's in America, and I think he's actually going to be in Hong Kong for a very little bit. So hopefully I'll be able to see him while he's here. But Penguin 6 recommended that we jump on over to HAPS, and that's why we're here. And hopefully uniting more of the community here. So if we talk about very different topics, so don't get me wrong, we just know each other because we happen to be in the same city and both live broadcasting, and we had a little group called Scope Team HK, which was really fun. But yes, so that's all. We've all gone to different countries now, as is the Hong Kong way. I'm based here in Hong Kong, and my family's in Canada, and the rest of my husband's family is in the UK. So I kind of consider like Hong Kong, Canada, London, UK home to a degree, right? So the topic of today is the 5 pillars of Money Mind. And these 5 pillars of Money Mind would have specific pain points for each of us. So all of us would probably know of these 5 pillars. They are money mindsets, savings, budgeting, investing, wills, and legacy. But a lot of us are missing or a little bit less stable on one or more of these 5 pillars. As a result, we can feel a little bit underconfident. But if we were to have full stability in all 5 areas, surprise, surprise, what I realized when I created these 5 pillars and started applying them to my life and my family's personal finances, these 5 pillars all in place suddenly makes us feel so much more confident to take the next steps in our lives and grow what we want to grow, how we want to grow it in terms of our money. So these 5 pillars again: money mindsets. This is how we think about money, how we believe money is supposed to work for us, and how we believe our money will turn out for us, essentially. These money mindsets are set into our mind between the ages of 3 to 7, when we're in theta hypnosis brainwave mode of childhood, and that's absorbed from our school teachers, from our parents, from adults around, from people saying, oh, that rich person is evil, or money is the root of all evil, when really it's being in love with money causes many types of evil, right? But there's all these different things that we can translate and then believe because of what we heard as children. The way to solve and reverse or change any of these money mindsets is through awareness and repetition, which we talk about in the Money Mind course, which is going to be released later in the year, and then, or in the next month or two, hopefully. And then there'll be little mini courses to help solve some of these pain points as I gain awareness from your comments and input on what your pain points are and what some common pain points are. And then we'll create mini courses to help with those pain points with professionals, because I am not a financial industry professional. I am not financial industry qualified. And all of this is based on my experience, not advice, because I have no qualification to be able to give financial advice. And therefore, this is just me sharing my experience and what I did and applied in our life in case it can help anyone else. So that one, money mindsets, how we think or believe about money. I know that English didn't make very much sense, but you know what I mean. So savings we have there a second, because all of us have heard about savings and a lot of us do savings, but it can be confusing. How much to save? What's a good amount? So roughly in our plan, 25% is what we'd aim for. And this is not a set number. It's more of a guideline to aim for this kind of number inside our savings. So there's a budget that I've created, which we'll talk about in the little budget category. And that includes 25% modular categories for us to be able to have a rough idea of how much should be going where. So the savings, 25% aiming for would be wonderful, but we would refer to the next section of budgeting to figure out what actually works for us. So being aware of what we want to be saving, would need to be saving, is really important for our specific situation. But the budgeting part is going to reveal what we can actually save and how it's going to work. So in the budgeting section in the Money Mind course, I talk about different types of pillars. We talk about, different types of, wow, my brain today, different types of budgets. So I created the 25% modular budget because I found that trying and testing for months and years these other types of budgets and realizing that they didn't work for me, or kind of worked for me, or worked quite well, and then couldn't expand past that like quite well part, meant that I needed something a little bit more flexible to not only have like building, but also have, the groundwork building, but also be able to build wealth in the future or keep going, if that makes more sense. So a lot of these budgets are great if we can apply them, but the one that I found I was having the best luck with, and we're talking about money, obviously, and budgets. So I had the most luck with the budget that was the starter budget for like if you have never budgeted before and you are in kind of like a spending cycle with no awareness of what is going where, it's a good one to start with. So these budgets that I mentioned are the zero-sum budget, which means that all of your monthly expenses you list out and then make that allocation amount come to zero. So next month I will be spending this much on groceries, I will be spending this much on rent, I will be spending blah, 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 and it should come to zero. And then you actually do it, which is great for saver types, possibly for other people who are really good at that type of really structured focused allocation, and don't feel, much of a whim spending urge like I do. Like I'll see something that I super love, or I'll think, oh, I'd love that. And it's very, very hard and restrictive for me to stick to like, oh, this is $1 over, because it makes my OCD go completely crazy. And then I'm just like, oh my God, like there's like $3 that don't add up and I can't deal with it. So that didn't work for me. I tried and I love it from a distance because it's so organized and I am so organized, but it did not work. It just made my actual money personality go crazy and start like having a tantrum, and then I'd go on like a spending spree and spend like way more because I was kind of like rebelling. So there was a dissonance, there was a disconnect. And what we notice is that with the different budget types, there will be some that work for us and some that really don't. And then there'll be the ones that we really admire or want to work for us, but really don't. And we have to accept that the ones that we want to work for us but really don't, leave them. Leave them and accept that if at some point it does feel like, oh, this is actually kind of going to work for us, great. But if we try and fight to fit into a style, it's just going to waste so much time and frankly waste so much money, because like I bought stuff that I just did not need because I was resisting the zero sum budget. So I'll just run quickly through those budget styles. Okay, there's the zero sum budget, there is the 30 50 20 budget, there's the no budget budget, and then there's my 25% budget. So the zero sum budget, everything is allocated and every dollar goes to an exact purpose. With the 30 50 20 budget, that's the one that is a great starter budget. And that one, you have 50% to necessities, 20% to savings, and 30% on spending on whatever you like. That was actually created by Elizabeth Warren, who's a Harvard bankruptcy expert, and I think now a senator, or maybe longtime senator, but I don't talk about politics. So she is a Harvard bankruptcy expert who created this to help people from breaking out of bankruptcy cycles and for maintaining entry-level financial stability. So that's a really good structure to target aiming towards if we have never done any budgeting before. Some people love the next budget, which is the no budget budget. This is great for people who either don't really spend a lot randomly or don't have time to spend a lot randomly, or kind of spend the same regular amounts all the time. Hi, Tiffany. Yeah. Mixed race. Go us. Yeah. So international. Hi, Hawaii. So the no budget budget is great for people that I know who are like, oh, I don't really want to spend a lot of time on budgeting or this area or tracking my finances or that type of thing. If that is something that that's your situation and you're just not going to do anything else around your budget, then this no budget budget is the necessities allocated, savings allocated, and spend the rest. Now that obviously requires you to know roughly what your necessities are, roughly what your savings is comfortable being, and then spend the rest. It is great for certain people, but it is so loose that it really is only great for certain people. For a lot of the rest of us, if we did it that way, we might figure that, oh yeah, we're just going to spend and save like maybe this much on necessities, but then maybe we don't have our necessities in place so that we have our 3 to 6 months emergency fund in there, which would be something that we had saved in the savings part. And this is what we talk about in the greater pillar and in the little mini courses online that you can see that are coming up for free at moneymind.global. But this area is like, it's a bit tenuous if you don't have pretty regular spending habits. Because if you have if you're like necessities and then you consider your car a necessity, but then your car, you change to a different car or your car has some problems and then it starts spinning and getting bigger and bigger, then it can kind of get a little bit messy. So I'm sorry that I forgot to mention in the savings part, but we would have already allocated in our savings a starter goal from where we are now, $1,000 emergency fund, US dollar, right? Just for if we need it, just put there somewhere in cash. Then 3 to 6 months of our monthly expenses, necessities. So we have that covered, and that's called our emergency fund. So that if we don't have savings yet, then in the budgeting part of the savings, we would start allocating blah, 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 blah to the emergency fund. Instead of just saving, we'd start allocating that and building a 3 to 6 month emergency fund, $1,000 emergency fund. Hi, Yassine. And then we would start building the 3 to 6 month emergency fund. And then after that, we would start building like the rest of the regular savings habit. We'd be working on that with the savings. My 25% budget is modular. So it's 25% on savings or investing, 25% on spending, and then 50% or two 25% blocks on necessities. So this is my modular approach, which is sort of a slightly amended version of the concept of the 50-30-20 budget, because of the fact that I realized that once you get to a certain point, if you want to keep budgeting or having some kind of structure allocation, the 30-50-20 starts to really reveal itself as being great as a starter budget, but not necessarily wealth building. And the 25% modules are flexible. So that means that in the beginning, it would be 25% savings and investing, 25% spending, 50 on necessity. But as we start to build, if we want to, if we're in positions to, and if that's what we desire, we can start to shift that. Or if we're a saver already, we can shift that and say, okay, I'm going to have 50% savings and investment, right? So maybe 25% savings, 25% investment. Then 25% on spending and 25% on necessities, roughly. Okay, these 25% are not hard targets. They're just to kind of aim towards, so that we know that when we look at, say, a budgeting app that we're using. I use an app called iExpensit. It's I.expensit. So it's iExpensit, but it's just with I and X instead of EX, confusingly. So I use that because we can take photos of receipts, which is really great. If you forget something or need to return something, then you're like, hey, I have the photo of the receipt to show, which has come in handy a few times over the past few years. Not very often, but on the occasions that it has, it's been great. So in the budgeting app, they'll often show a little pie chart. And then you can see where your allocations are roughly. You can see if you have the category of like necessities or you have the category of spending, then you've got it right there. Am I roughly spending close to 25%, or am I just going crazy on shopping, or are my necessities taking up absolutely everything? Do we have too expensive a car? Do we have too expensive a house? You know, like our house is nice enough. It's an apartment, and I don't foresee any reason why we need to leave or go somewhere bigger or nicer unless it's somewhere very different. Because why? Moving costs, and it works for us to be here. And also we have these wild pigeons who visit us outside. Oh, sorry, they're not pigeons, they're doves. They're wild protected doves, and they've decided to come and visit us. And so they come to our apartment and they like stand outside the window and like scream, dove scream, which is like, right, in case any of you haven't heard doves, that's like exactly what it sounds like. I'm lying, that's not what it sounds like, but it's almost exactly what it sounds like. She lied. So these doves come to our house and they started to love us and trust us so much that they started to bring their babies, which is really rare, apparently. That's why you never see baby pigeons or baby doves or anything, because they keep them hidden. And so they bring their baby and leave it like, sitting there. You know how they like, they're kind of all hairy and they look like Gonzo from Sesame Street with the massive nose, because they like teenage angst, they haven't grown into their parts yet. And so it's there with this like messed up little feathers and this giant Gonzo beak sitting on the ledge, and just, and they would just fly off and leave it there for us to babysit it. And we were so honored and privileged. And so they come all the time now. They've been coming for a few years. And so that's also another reason why we'll probably never leave. Apart from, you know, the financial aspect, that there's no point in like spending more money or wasting money on moving if we don't have to. It's a nice house. It's convenient. Why move? Why make a change if we don't need to, right? I know Sarah's like, you were slightly crazy, Raven. I know, but they're so cute and you really look like Gonzo. I mean, what are you going to do? That's so adorable. So back to the money, back to the money stuff, the money chats. So the 25% budget is something I created for our family's use, so there'd be more flexibility as we were to grow and want to, start allocating more aggressively in different areas. So just, oh, I know outside animals are so cute. It's because they trust us. So heartwarming. I'm such a softie. So when we have this budgeting pillar in place, it can be really, really helpful for the rest of our finances. Okay, I didn't realize that this area was going to be the area that I would have the most like pain or confidence growth in, because I'd always struggled thinking, oh God, I don't want to deal with it. I'm an avoider of this type of thing. It's like, ah, nah, nah, nah. So now I know if I feel like avoiding something, I have to do it immediately. Like, go do it now. Because my tendency is to think, oh, visitors. Oh, my tendency is to, possibly like slightly procrastinate. And I now spot it immediately. I'm like, oh, I feel a little bit like nope, go do it. I see you. I see you, little like worm. Yeah, right, exactly. So I spent a long time just sort of procrastinating and kind of avoiding. And really, what I was avoiding was whatever money stuff I had, but I was avoiding learning about the money stuff. Because, hi, Santa Ana. Hi, Sean. Thanks for subscribing. Hi, Annie. So I found that I was avoiding money stuff because I started working quite young in media and I just had no idea what to do. And I was just working all the time. I was overwhelmed. I was like, oh God, I don't want to deal with this stuff. Like I'm having a hard time just sort of, well, not having a hard time, but I was like, I'm just obsessing about my work and I don't want to deal with this other stuff, right? my like personal life. I was like, nope, don't talk to me. I'm working. Which, yeah, fine, worked. It was, great. I was successful, but it meant that I didn't know what I felt was basic personal finance stability stuff when I was young. And then when I started talking to a lot more people about it, finally, in my like early 20s, like 2021, I was like, wait, a load of other people don't seem to know. And as the time went on, I was like, oh my God, like a lot of people don't seem to have like a structure. I mean, if Google doesn't have like a straight answer, like the world doesn't know. Oh my God, we're screwed. Oh my God, if Google doesn't know, we are screwed. Okay, so I was like, oh my gosh, financial literacy is a thing. Like, why are we being taught this? And Annie, I really miss Periscope a lot. But I realized, oh, okay, I have to figure this out for myself. I did. We went into a phase of my husband building a startup, and we agreed that it was a great opportunity. It was a good time to do it, but it revealed all these gaps in my own personal finance knowledge, and I realized, have I ever worked with clients who have autism on the financial stuff? Maybe you can DM me on Instagram, Sean, with more questions in that area. But when I realized that I had all these gaps in my financial knowledge, I said, okay, I need a plan. And I need an easy, simple plan because I have dyscalculia, which is numbers dyslexia, which is also why I can't become like a financial advisor or anything, because I couldn't pass the test, right? I have dyscalculia. It's numbers dyslexia. I can't do numbers. But I said, okay, I need a plan that is simple, easy to remember, and covers the basics of the financial stability. I don't need to know how to super invest, day trade, or anything. I just need like what I need to know to just be okay. And I created the 5 pillars of money mindsets, savings, budgeting, investing, wills, and legacy, which actually overlap very strongly with the OECD financial core competencies for youth. Okay, these are agreed standards that apparently are agreed to be like, should be educating youths from like 5 to 17 or 18 around the world. And I was like, oh my God. So this actually already kind of exists. I mean, in that format, in a little bit more complicated, but the 5 pillars cover this. And I don't know anyone who's been taught this in school. I'm like, what? So anyhow, I created the 5 pillars, and then I started to realize that once I'd applied it, it just plugged and improve my confidence so quickly. I said, holy crap, this was very unexpected. I feel great that I've had to, go through and figure out what the main parts are and what would be the easiest and the most efficient to be able to have the maximum results for stability with the least effort. And these 5 pillars are it. And so once I applied it and had the results from that in our own family so quickly, I I said, okay, this might be something that I should share with the world. And my husband and I discussed it, and we decided that this is a good thing for me to pursue my purpose, pursue my passion, and that my experiences meant that this is the right thing for me to be doing with my time and my life, sharing these 5 pillars with whoever I can, which is why I have these live chats and why I'm founded MoneyMind.global to help um, raise awareness, educate, and also empower by having Money Mind in a soon to be social enterprise structure. So now it's an aspiring social enterprise, and it's really to give back power into just people's hands and say, here's what I didn't have in case it's useful to you to have it whenever you need it. Um, so that you can have a much more financially stable life and not have to worry about having these pillars missing, right? So these pillars are money mindsets, savings, budgeting, investing, wills, and legacy. And because I'm not a financial advisor or financial industry professional, I can't talk about these in terms of an advice giving way. And that's why the investing pillar is the pillar that has the CABS category, right? The CABS, I call it the CABS. Remember the CABS categories. Um, so the CABS categories in this investing pillar are essentially just what financial advisors said. You'll roughly hear about these categories if you go talk to a financial advisor, and these are what will be there in investing. So it's just an overview of what you might see or could expect. So the CABS categories are called CABS categories because I name them that way, because a cab will get you, or a taxi cab will get you where you need to go. Okay, this is how basic I have to remember things. So a taxi cab will get you where you need to go, and the CABS categories will get you financially where you need to go in terms of stability. Yeah, okay, it's really cheesy, but that's just, how it is. Okay, so this taxi cab is cash, alternatives, bonds, stocks. Okay, so cash would be cash that we have liquid. Yeah, memory tool, right? I'm in my memory. I'm like, wait, does cabs have S before B? Um, so cash is cash that we have liquid that for investing, and the I've had conversations with people before whether to talk about just like digital currencies and that type of thing, but it's just anything that we consider cash that's liquid for investing. Okay, yeah, taxi cabs, exactly. Um, so in future, I'll get some more input from people on whether to include like digital currencies and things like that because it's still such an evolving space. Um, but cash is money that we have, or cash that we have liquid for investing. Alternatives are just anything that is not bonds or stocks, essentially, which includes like real estate, commodities like gold, coffee, blah, that type of stuff. Um, bonds are bonds. Bonds are essentially loans to like companies or governments, and you get a percentage for having that loan to them. Um, and government bonds or U.S. Treasury bonds and things are like really commonly known. And then stocks or equities are, little shares in companies that we know of: Apple, Coca-Cola, blah, 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 right? And then these are the categories, the CABS categories. So these CABS categories are what you need to know. And you'll often see, if you have no experience before, that these kind of bonds and stocks will be often shown in what's called a model portfolio. So when we're considering investing, um, life cycle planning is something that I didn't really know about before, but is, what cycle of life are you in? Are you studying? Are you just new into a job? Are you close to retirement? Like, what do you need your money for? And what are your goals? So, like, what are your objectives with your money? And so, a financial planner will allocate different portfolios or different investments based on what you need, essentially, right? So, if you've never seen these types of portfolios before, apparently one of the simpler fundamental models that you can use as reference is a Vanguard model portfolio. And if you Google Vanguard model portfolios, they actually have a page that comes up that says, here's our model portfolios, and kind of explains what they do. So they'll be like all bonds, which is for, maximum security, or they'll be for, half stocks, half bonds, or 70% stocks, 70%, 30% bonds. Wow, my number's right. 70% stocks, 70% bonds. Like, yeah, Raven. Um, and that may be, those may be more aggressive or less aggressive depending on, what we need them for and what phase of life we're in, and also what we have tested on and in our risk profile questionnaire, which is something free that we can do at banks. I'm not sure where else you can do it, but risk profiling questionnaire is what they're called. You can Google it. You can often do them for free. You can get to your bank and do it for free usually, and it will just show you what your risk tolerance is. And that's usually good to know just in terms of personality overall. So some of us will be really risk averse. We will be scared of losing money, and so we want something that's more stable and secure. So if we are more risk tolerant, then we may want riskier investments. So we might, want to hold really long term and have maybe the allocation that was in the Vanguard model portfolio that was more heavily weighted with stocks than bonds or something, if we were to look at those models as an example. So those types of things, which I cover all in the Money Mind course, which it's quite sizable, the course. It's only 5 pillars, but each pillar is about, like maybe an hour, less than an hour, I think, like between 30 minutes to an hour, and it covers these in more depth. So I need to get a little more structure in place so that it feels like less intense. And I also want to create these mini workshops as well, so that people can just look at the pillar or the part that they really want a little bit more advice or information in. And I'll try and get people who are specialists in those areas to help guide with those mini workshops, and see what we can do. So that's something I'll be working on. But if we are in this beginner's investment area, we really don't want to take any action. Usually in the beginning, we want to educate. And so we want to just say, okay, I am not comfortable with this area yet. I want to learn a bunch of stuff until I feel a bit more comfortable on the basics of the next steps for me to take from where I am now. That's what we want to do with anything, right? Like, we don't want to go into the bank and just be like, oh, I want to invest, and be sold some terrible insurance product that isn't suitable for us, because we don't know what we're looking for, what we're asking for, right? And I have had like this happen to me in the past, when I went in and said, I want to invest in US stocks specifically, and they were like, oh, here's something, and they like signed me up for this insurance policy. And fortunately, I had someone around who was like, wait, that's not right. You went in asking for something, and they completely missold you something else, but said, yes, this is what this is. And I was like 20. So we went back and said, look, grounds of usury, this is not right. This is mis-selling something, and it's unethical. So we got it canceled. But a lot of people have fallen into traps like that, and it's just so sad, because we just don't know how to dodge stuff if we're not educated about it, right? We kind of Red Riding Hood and then just get wolfed, which is just awful, because it happens far too much. And I think it's really a shame, because there's just, it's sad, and there's no need. And I think if we were all to be more comfortable talking about the basics and sharing within, our communities and our family, and like, if we knew things that we wish that we knew, then we would feel more comfortable sharing that with our family, sharing that with loved ones, and sharing that with people and our communities, like, a bit more openly, right? Because we feel confident. If we're confident about something, we're like, oh, my basics are like this. I use this type of budget. Like, if you ask someone, what type of budget do you use, or what type of budget do you prefer? Some people will be like, oh yeah, I like this type of budget. I'm zero zero sum budget, or I don't really use a budget. I just, kind of just allocate necessities, whatever. But you'll start to get to know like what some of the more common references are if you're talking about it. I'm not saying that this is recommended, but I'm just saying that, I have a dream one day that people will be able to talk about things a little bit more openly and, yeah, be able to save themselves and each other from a lot of stress that comes from just not having conversations about stuff as we're growing up, as we see our parents doing, whatever. So anyhow, that investing pillars, the CABS categories, and that's just a bunch of stuff that we would sort of see in the investing pillar of the Money Mind course. And investing and wills and legacy. So it's money mindsets, savings, budgeting, investing, wills and legacy. And the wills and legacy is really important because our will takes so little time to do. We just have to plonk it all together. Ideally, go to a lawyer and just get them to draft up a basic will that has the information of all the people that are to be included in the will, the executor of the will, which is who is going to be doing the stuff since we're probably not going to be there, right? And really important things like if we have kids, who is our guardian for our kids? And importantly, who's the interim guardian for the kids? Like if your guardian is somewhere far away, a few hours away or something, who's the interim guardian? Who is looking after your kids or your pets in the time that it takes for that person who's the guardian to get to your kids? So that's something that is also really important to keep in mind. If we have assets in different countries, then we need multi-jurisdictional wills. We need someone who says, oh, okay, this is how this works for the will's requirements for you having assets in different countries, and it's really just a way to avoid probate, which is so, so terrible, because if you don't have a will, then essentially probate, if you want to remember what probate means, it means prove it. Okay, it means, okay, not officially, if you look at probate, it's some like Latin derivative word, but probate to me means prove it, because essentially the government says they don't have a will. Prove it. Prove that you're the mother. Prove that you have rights to be able to access this person's stuff. The government will try and like kind of protect you, I guess, by saying, no, you need to show that you are the legally appointed person to execute what on this other person's estate. Otherwise, any stranger could come in and be like, oh, I know Sheila, I'm going to execute her will. Or, and it's like, okay, you're not, scammers, whatever. Probate can take months. It can take years if there are assets. And sometimes if you have probate, simply because you didn't bother getting that piece of paper that's just a will, if there's even a basic will, it's better than no will at all. And probate means that the family then has to go through whatever they've gone through and then fight to try and prove that they can somehow access like your Facebook accounts, like your basic bank account, just close things on your behalf, which is often what people want to do, right? And that probate process can eat all of the money that you would have wanted to leave to your family. So not advisable. Get a will. Get a will, put it in place. If you're over 18, you need a will. Otherwise, whoever you love, who is still there in your life, if anything happens, if you just fall unconscious and you're in a coma for like 3 weeks or whatever, you need that will. You just need it, because those people are going to be going through enough without us being careless and saying, oh, historically, even though no one has ever lived forever, I'm somehow exempt from needing this. Essentially, it's just like, you know what? If you care about your family or you care about your loved ones, you just get a will to protect them. It's kind of a way of saying, even though I'm not here right now, I love you enough that I'm still looking after you. I'm still making sure that this is okay. Even if we don't get along so well a lot of the time, I don't want you to have to struggle on top of the tragedy struggle. And I'm still with you looking after you. I'm still with you looking out for you. I'm still with you as part of your family. It's like a way of continuing and saying, I'm still here. I got this. You can leave letters, like love letters and, photos or whatever in the legacy file. The will itself will just be the document. And then in the legacy file, you can put other things that you would love people to be able to say, oh, yay, these are our favorite memories, or these are our keepsakes, or these are our other things like that, like car insurance, or, here's where, the allocation. I want to leave that favorite piece of jewelry to my daughter. I want to leave that memory thing to my sister. That's going to be there in the legacy file or in the will if we want to have that in certain types of wills. So it gives our choices life to be able to share and continue our legacy. That's why it's called a legacy. It's so that it's not a hard stop. It continues. Our love with our family and our connection with our family continues. And it sounds morbid to have a will, but that's what it is. It's really just there to protect us and best that we have. And so that's why we want to have the will in the will part. And the legacy file is a box file or folder that we have in our study or somewhere else. And the executor or other people in the will, usually the executor, knows where that file is and is told. The relevant people are told where that file is. It's in my study. And it's a box file. And if anything is ever needed, it's right there. So that's how that works. So those are the 5 pillars. Money mindsets, savings, budgeting, investing, wills, and legacy. Hopefully this is a little bit helpful in terms of what is going to be in the online course that's just going to be available on moneymind.global in the next month or 2. I'm still working very hard on it. But thank you everybody for joining on any platform that you have joined on. I really appreciate it. And if you have any comments about what your pain points are in these areas, we'll start to explore the pillars and the pain points that come with those pillars. Like, say, money mindsets. How do I know what money mindset I have? How do I change it? What are some tips or tools I can use? What are, like the savings patterns or habits that may work for me with savings? What do I need to do? What are the first steps? If I have debt, what do I do? If I have, like too many expenses or not sure where to start or how much is going to be right for me, what do I do? So we'll discuss some of those things too. Budgeting, if we're not right into like starting a budget right now, the first thing we need to do is just track our daily expenses and just write them down as we spend them, or at the end of the day. It's usually best to just jot them down as we spend them. I use iExpense-It and I just plug them in like I'm getting out of a taxi and I'm just like, oh yeah, and pop out on my way to walk to wherever I'm walking. But tracking expenses is great. So, that will be essentially revealing what our budget is and what our spending is. So if we've never done a budget before, just track our expenses for 2 weeks, right? You'll start to get an idea, but then you can start tracking your expenses for 3 months and you'll get a clear picture of what you're spending on right now and where you're at in terms of your finances. Then when you see that, sometimes our own natural selective spending processes come in and we're like, oh, wow, I don't want to be spending like $10,000 on coffee every month. Okay, I could totally make that at home, right? Not 10,000, but So once we start to get eyes on our budget, that can become easier for us. But a lot of us are really nervous about how to start and what budget might work for us. So we can work on some of those pain points in conversations in future. Then we have the investing part, which I can't give advice on, and I will never be able to give advice on. So that's not something I can do, but we can talk about investing in terms of overcoming the hurdle of how to think about it and how to get towards this goal. What are the steps we need to do towards investing? Like, what do we need in place to say, okay, I have, my emergency fund or my savings regular, or like, what do we need before starting investing? Because investing, we won't be starting until we have certain things in place, like no debt and savings and other things like that. So what are those things? And what is the little checklist of those things that we can just check off and say, okay, now I can start investing. So that we could cover in the investing part. And the wills and legacy, what do I need to include in my wills? Exactly, like where do I get one done? What do I need to say? And how does it work with the country that I'm in? What is going to be right for me? So I obviously can't give advice on that area, but I can also say from experience, here are some of the areas that I have heard are usually included in the most common wills, right? Like the executor and beneficiaries and things like that. So those are the things that we'll start to talk about a little bit more moving forward about the 5 pillars of money mind. And that's money mindsets, savings, budgeting, investing, wills, and legacy. And these 5 pillars of money mind are the basic financial stability structures for personal finance. That is what I've created for our own family's use from my own experience. Hi, Strawberry Plains. Hi, Onion. um, and these 5 pillars are really for anybody to be able to use and apply if they choose as a guideline. They're not advice, they're just my experience, my opinions on my journey, and I'm sharing them because my mission and my purpose is to help promote awareness and empower financial literacy as far as I can around the world. So this is what I'm doing, this is what I will continue doing and be chatting about. And so I hope to see you here on whatever platform you're on, or here on haps.tv, which is where I'm broadcasting. You can also catch me over on Instagram, and I will be setting up my Money Mind page on Instagram, but I've just been so busy. I haven't had time for social media, which is a good thing. But it's definitely going to be a lot more social media with a lot more of these reminder points and a lot of encouragement and a lot of like empowerment kind of coaching. I will also be looking towards getting, possibly if I can, both a life coaching and a financial coaching qualification, just so that I can, if they're right for me, just so that I can have a better idea on how to serve and provide all of our customers better after we launch and in conversations and discussions and things, just so I have more tools to be able to help essentially. So thank you so much for joining. I will be broadcasting again more regularly. I'll probably be back on tomorrow and the next day. And so I hope to see you there then. Thank you for your time, and I will see you next time. It's Raven. You can catch our website, moneymind.global.